Chapter 12 The Dormouse's Story. "I'm afraid I don't know one," Alice replied, alarmed at being put on the spot. "Then the Dormouse shall tell us one," the March Hare and the Hatter both cried. "Wake up, Dormouse! Wake up!" they exclaimed as they pinched it on both sides at once. The Dormouse slowly opened its eyes. "I wasn't asleep," it said in a lazy voice. "I heard every word you were saying." "Tell us a story," said the March Hare. "Yes, please do," cried Alice. "Be quick about it," said the Hatter, "or you'll be asleep again before it's done." "Once upon a time, there were 3 little sisters," the Dormouse began in a great hurry, "and their names were Elsie, Lacie, and Tilly. They lived at the bottom of a well." "What did they live on?" asked Alice, who was always interested in eating and drinking. "On molasses," the Dormouse replied, after thinking for a moment. "That's all?" Alice asked. "They couldn't have done that. They would have been ill." "So they were," said the Dormouse. "They were very ill." Alice tried to imagine living that way, but it puzzled her too much. Why did they live at the bottom of a well? "Take some more tea," the March Hare said to Alice. "I haven't had any yet," Alice replied in an offended tone, "so I can't take more." "You mean you can't take less," the Hatter replied. "It's very easy to take more than nothing." "Nobody asked your opinion," Alice told him. "Who is making personal remarks now?" the Hatter asked triumphantly. Alice didn't know what to say to this, so she didn't reply. Instead, she helped herself to some tea and some bread and butter, then turned to the Dormouse and repeated her question. Why did the sisters live at the bottom of a well? After thinking for a moment, the Dormouse replied, "It was a molasses well." "There's no such thing!" Alice exclaimed. She was getting very annoyed by all of this nonsense. "If you can't be polite," the Dormouse told her, "finish the story yourself." "No, please go on," Alice said humbly. "I won't interrupt again." The Dormouse sighed, then went on. "So these 3 little sisters, they were learning to draw, you know." "What did they draw?" asked Alice, interrupting again. "Molasses," said the Dormouse, without thinking at all this time. "I want a clean cup," interrupted the Hatter. "Let's all move one place over." He moved on as he spoke, and the Dormouse followed him. The March Hare moved into the Dormouse's place, and Alice took the place of the March Hare. The Hatter was the only one who got any advantage from the change. Alice was worse off than before, because the March Hare had spilled milk onto his plate. Alice didn't wish to offend the Dormouse again, so she asked cautiously, "I don't understand. Where did they draw the molasses from?" "You can draw water out of a water well," said the Hatter. "So I think you could draw molasses out of a molasses well." "But they were in the well," Alice said to the Dormouse. "Of course they were," said the Dormouse. "Well, in the well." Poor Alice was so confused by now that she let the Dormouse go on. "They were learning to draw," the Dormouse went on, yawning and rubbing its eyes, for it was getting sleepy. "They drew all sorts of things, everything that began with an M." "Why with an M?" said Alice. "Why not?" said the March Hare. Alice was silent. There seemed to be no use in asking questions. The Dormouse was beginning to doze off, so the Hatter pinched it. The creature woke up with a little shriek and went on. "Everything that begins with an M, such as mousetraps, and the moon, and memory, and muchness. Did you ever see such a thing as drawing of a muchness?" "Well, now that you ask me," said Alice, very much confused, "I don't think—" "Then you shouldn't talk," said the Hatter, smirking. The rudeness was more than Alice could take. She got up in disgust and walked off. The Dormouse fell asleep instantly, and neither of the others paid any attention to Alice's leaving. She looked back once or twice, half hoping that they would call her back. The last she saw of them, they were trying to stuff the sleepy Dormouse into the teapot. "I'll never go there again," said Alice as she walked through the woods. "It's the stupidest tea party I ever was at in all my life. Just as she said this, Alice noticed that one of the trees in front of her had a door leading into it. That's curious, she thought. Everything is curious today. I may as well go in. And in she went. Alice found herself back in the long hall with the little glass table. I'll manage better this time, she said to herself. She began by taking the little golden key and unlocking the door that led into the beautiful garden. Then she nibbled at the mushroom. She still had a piece of it in her pocket, until she was about a foot high. She went through the door, then down a little passage, and found herself at last in the beautiful garden, among bright flower beds and cool fountains.